it's scary letting, the backbone of your company and then putting that into someone else's hands, right? Because we all want to get reimbursed for the services at the beginning, because I was very, very micromanaging her. And I was like, well, did you check this? Did you check this? Did you check this? And she finally sat down with me and said, I've got this. I need your trust with this. That was the driving force into really scaling the business, was letting someone else take care of that. And I happened to find a really good biller, and she's been with me since that day.
Welcome, everyone, to ABA Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by 3Pi Squared. I'm April, and as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, Stephen is not here with us today. He said that we could just take the floor and run with it, and he'll be back on another podcast. So, but as you can see, again, if you're watching on YouTube, which come watch us on YouTube. I think it's fun. You can see it's like kind of nice to be able to see like facial expressions and just see how we all interact. And so for sure, come join us on YouTube. Okay. So as you can see, we have with us our ABA Business Owners panel, and I will give everyone a chance to introduce themselves here in a few minutes. But I did want to introduce the podcast itself, our topic today. And today is our last formal Back to Basics our episode in our Back to Basics season. Next month, we are starting a new season. So definitely come listen to what we have to offer in February. We even have a really fun Valentine's episode coming up, where we're going to have married business owners, like a panel of married business owners. And I can promise you it's going to be a bit entertaining, especially if you're in that situation where you have like your personal partner with you in the journey of, running your business, because there is definitely an extra set of challenges there. I can speak from experience. But today, our last episode of Back to Basics, this is where we go back to the foundations of running an ABA business. We look at, we look at those who are starting a company, who are already running their company, and those who are preparing for what's next and ready to close their company. And no matter where you are in your journey, we will meet you where you are. And we like to remind you that it's never too late to start new things or to catch up, but if you do begin early in the journey, then your chances of success are a little bit, better. Things are a little easier. There are a few problems along the way. So if you are thinking about starting a company, or you're in those beginning stages, definitely, listen to our podcast. We have like almost 200 episodes now. And so, I'm sure you'll find one that will be helpful to you. So, today's topic that we're going to talk about, here it is, like the end of January, right? And some of us can start feeling a little discouraged. We have the winter blues that are for sure kicking in, and the holidays are over, and all of those New Year's resolutions, whether, even if those of us who are like, I don't do New Year's resolutions, right? Like there's still like just something about that end of January thing, like slump, right? So we want to bring you a little breath of fresh air today. Hopefully, this will, you'll find this, uplifting. We're going to talk about, business decisions that we made that helped move our business forward. So, in our panel today, we have a variety of owners. I think at this point, they're none of them, this is not their first podcast. They've been with us for a while. So if you've been here, then you already know these guys that are joining me today, but they represent all three phases of our Back to Basics, right? We have those who are in their first couple of years. We have someone who has closed their business, and then we have those who are in the middle, and then some have multiple clinics. So I feel like we have a really good mix here today to really be able to share with. So for this discussion, we're intentionally focusing on forward moving decisions rather than the challenges or problem solvings behind it. The goal is to offer that uplifting, grounding conversation for you guys today. So we'll just, it's just a casual conversation. We'll see where it takes us. So first of all, I would love to give the panelists opportunity to introduce themselves.
I'll go ahead and start. I'm Mallory Stinger. I am the one that April said has closed her business. I did close my business. I am technically still operating. It's just in a different capacity. I no longer have employees. Thank goodness. For those of you who have employees, keep fighting the good fight. But yeah, that was one of the biggest stressful things for me. So I still am practicing. It's just in a different capacity.
I'm Jennifer Helton. I have I'm the one with the multiple locations and fighting the good fight with team members and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I've been around I'm excited for this panel because I think it is good to celebrate what decisions sort of were maybe terrifying to make, but then taking that leap of faith and it actually ended up working out better than you had hoped it would. So it'll be exciting to hear about that.
I'm Brooke Schneider. I'm the one I think she's talking about that's been around for a long time. My my practice is going on 11 years, but I've been in the field for, it feels like forever and ever and ever. Yeah, I just like Jennifer, we're just fighting the good fight with the employees and the staff and making sure the families are happy and just finding that balance, right? Because it is a tough balance, but it's a rewarding balance once you find it. But yeah, so I'm Brooke and I have one practice in Chicago.
And I'm Alecia. I'm the newbie, the one that April was expressing is a new business owner. Of my business, I started my business in 2023. So, and yeah, growing and building and doing the good fight. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that was kind of weird, huh? I was like talking about you guys as if you weren't here, but you like ran with it. So great. Okay. So let's get to the question. I'm just going to ask the big question and then we'll see where it takes us. And whoever wants to hop in and answer first and share their story can. But what is one decision that you made that clearly moved your business forward? And you can give, like, if it's helpful to understand the context, you can give a little context behind it and then share with us what your decision was. And then we can talk more about it.
I'll go first. The decision that really pushed my company forward into growth, actually, the last couple of years was hiring a scheduler. And I think I have said this before on other podcasts, but it was the biggest weight off of me that I really had no idea I was carrying. And so I vividly remember the day that I was like, I need help. Like, I can't continue to sustain this. I was the only BCBA at the time. And so I remember sitting in my office and I had spent almost an entire day working on scheduling for like a whole month. And just like working on it, but also knowing that every day the schedule basically would end up having to be changed, right? Like, things come up all the time. Kids get sick and staff get sick and, things, I've missed things, so I remember sitting there and almost like just really feeling defeated that day because I was working on the schedule, but I had a long list of other tasks that I needed to get done, like supervision and also doing treatment plans, right? And so, and parent training. And so midday, I mean, I finished it out, but midday I was like, I gotta make a change. I need to ask for help. So that is one of the things that I really would encourage anyone that is just starting out, that if you don't have someone that's kind of like at least working with you on that, definitely get that going very quickly, because really ultimately it of course freed up time. But one of the other things that I noticed is I was having a really hard time waking up in the morning, and it was the anxiety. It was the anxiety that I was feeling because I was the first one to deal with all of the call outs, first one to deal with sending out subs, first one to, be rerouting people. And I literally just did not want to get up in the morning because of that anxiety. And so that it freed up time, but then it also took that, anxiety off of me. I still, would do a very quick and brief call, shortly after I woke up in the morning, but it was more of like a report, like, oh, so-and-so called out, or this client's sick, and oh, remember, she's going on vacation, so it was like, okay, that was easier for me to, to deal with, than to be the first one. So, I would do a brief call in the morning. I would also, we would meet every Sunday just to kind of try to mitigate anything that might come up for that week, that we could, be proactive on. Even if it was like, hey, remember, Joe had, the flu last week. Let's check in with him just to make sure how he's feeling. Right. And so we could be proactive, prior to the week. And I think that the families really, I did that already, but having somebody else help me with that was really, really, really great. So just the mental load, was really great. And then kind of the last and final thing that I would really say about that though, is that, I was able to hire a really good friend, who had and still does. She has a wonderful attention to detail. And that is what you really have to have when you're doing scheduling. And I also really trusted her. And she also learned my style. We were friends before, right? But we had never worked together. And so it was different because she did have to learn my style as a business, woman, and professionally how I wanted things to be handled. And so if you can find someone, whether that is a friend or not, right? I know that sometimes it can be messy when you're hiring family or friends, but if you can find someone who knows you well enough and is confident in saying, no, actually, I know Mallory would not make that decision. This is what she would do instead, right? Or this is what I know, she would prefer. That is really, really helpful. So that was just a very, very simple, I feel like, decision that really helped me move forward. I was able to bring on just a couple more clients because it did free up my administrative time, right? That I didn't have to do. And then just the mental load was really great. So that was my decision that really helped me move forward.
Thank you for sharing, Mallory. That sounds like you, not only in a more efficient maybe way for work, but it sounds like it impacted you personally as well. So thank you for sharing. All right. Who would like to share their decision that helped move their business forward next?
I'll go ahead. I think finding yourself a really good biller is what really, well, at least for me, drove my business to the next level. I opened my practice when I had my daughter. She was 6 weeks old, and I was like, I'm going to do this, right? Because it gave me some flexibility. And I was very hesitant to bring on a biller because I wanted to do everything and micromanage and make sure that things were getting sent out correctly and inputted. And, I was learning I was teaching myself everything. So when the company got bigger and it started stressing me out more, and, you can only make the insurance calls between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. So in order to get in touch with insurance without waiting 5 hours, I brought on a biller, And she and I butted heads at the beginning because I was very, very micromanaging her. And I was like, well, did you check this? Did you check this? Did you check this? And she finally sat down with me and said, I've got this. I need your trust with this. And I think that allowed me to bring on more patients, focus my attention more on the staff and bringing the staff up to par and not worrying about that. But, when you're just starting out, it's scary letting, the backbone of your company and then putting that into someone else's hands, right? Because we all want to get reimbursed for the services. So I think for me, that was the driving force into really scaling the business, was letting someone else take care of that. And I happened to find a really good biller, and she's been with me since that day. But she definitely had, that meeting with me where she was like, I don't need to micromanage. I've got this. You focus on what you're good at, and I'll focus on what I'm good at. We always laugh because I have my BCBA. I don't have my MBA. So like numbers and all that stuff is not what I want to deal with. I'd want to leave that to the accountant and to her and to the biller and all that. And she really brought me to where I needed to be to scale the company. And she brought, her side to where she could really scale the company. I know that starting out, it's really scary to leave that in someone else's hands, but it really makes a huge difference. And, their focus is bringing in the reimbursement, fighting the claims if there's something, and, sitting on the phone and fighting with insurance companies or trying to get an auth request or doing something like that. And we don't have that kind of time. We're on the floor, we're training, we're supervising, we're writing treatment plans. And we don't have the time to just sit on the phone, wait for insurance company. And the music they play drove me crazy after a while. So just let her deal with that. But that was really one big thing that I decided I needed. And that really drove my company. And like I said, she's been with me now since that day, and we're going on 11 years together. But she definitely had that meeting with me. She was like, trust me, I've got this. So I completely, can relate to any new business owner on not wanting to, give that piece up, but it really makes a huge difference.
But it definitely demonstrates professional growth, though, when you're able to delegate and let go. Like, that was definitely, Brooke, that was me too. Like, it was really hard to let that go. And no, I need somebody, a variety of people, right? And when you first start, it's just you. And you're like, I got this. I can do all of it. But the reality is you can't.
You can't. And I was in the same boat as you, where, some mornings I'd wake up and I'm like, I can't wake up. I can't do this. I can't get up. And other mornings it'd be like, oh, it's 7:05. I got to call insurance company right now because I know that I'll be able to get someone on the phone. And it does start affecting you. It's, everyone says like work-life balance, but when you're an owner, you don't really have that work-life balance. You have to figure out what's going to make you get there. And that was one of the biggest stressors, and I remember looking at claim numbers and copy and pasting and looking at availability, I don't even know what this availability is, but teaching myself all these things. And it's a challenge, but when the backbone of the company is a biller, right? Because you got to get the reimbursements, you got to get the claims, and you got to get the money back. So when you kind of shift your focus to, there's somebody who is, who knows this, who is this dedicated person, who knows it way better than we do, because we didn't go to school for this. You have to shift your mindset into saying, okay, I have to trust this person and leave it in their hands. And it's a very scary thing, especially as a new business owner. But you really got to do that and really make sure that you're kind of sticking into your own lane, right? And you're staying there. So like my lane was not sitting on the phone doing insurance calls and claims and copy and pasting claim numbers. It was to provide the clinical work. And that's what, we went to school for what feels like a billion years for. And really just remember to stay in your lane, and it's okay. And it's okay. You don't have to micromanage everybody, and just trust. I think that trust is the biggest thing, not even just starting out as you keep on growing, is just trust in the people who are, dedicated in this area and who are professionals in this area.
This is really beautiful because this is exactly how I hope this conversation would go. Is that fair to say? Because, we could talk about, okay, how to delegate, right? We have talked about it before. When to delegate, how to delegate. But I think I really appreciate you guys sharing your real life experiences, because it is really hard to let go. It is hard to not micromanage. It is hard to want to still have your hands in all of the pieces, even once you've given it to someone else to do, because it's a little scary. And that's okay for it to be scary, but yeah. So great job. And I think you're right too, Mallory, where you said that it's like part of professional growth also to be able to get there. I think it's scary for everyone. I have not heard a business owner yet who said, oh yeah, I delegated and felt completely confident and, could just let it go. I haven't heard anyone say that yet. So just to validate that.
I think that you made a good point with the word scary, because scary, everyone needs to be scared at some point in order to get out of your comfort zone. Right. So if nobody got scared, then we would all just keep on doing what we're doing. But it is scary. But if something's scary, that's almost that, like that hint, that clue to, I do need to change something up. There is something that is scary to me, but it's not going to be scary to someone else who's professional in this area. And I think that even when we get clients that are out of our realm of, education wise, it's scary to say, like, you know what, go to this person. This is what they specialize in. So it's the same thing we're taught, just in a more business-like, environment. It's scary. It's scary, like pushes out.
One of those things that's like, choose your hard.
Yes. Yes.
Both of those things are truly hard, right? Like doing the scheduling or doing the billing on your own, that's hard. But what else is hard is letting go and delegating and giving it up. And like you said, too, recognizing like, I didn't go to school for this. Like, I went to school long enough to go to be a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but we went to school for, how many years to be a BCBA. And so, choose your hard.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, because it's true. And actually, I feel like I've just been one big walking, commercial for our podcast. I think I'm just really excited about all of the new stuff that we have coming up this year. But in February, that is going to be we're going to be doing a couple of podcasts on a series of like, you're not stuck, right? You have choice. And what does that look like? And so I think this kind of goes along with this. It's going to be like an extension of burnout and work-life balance, but we're going a completely different direction. So I'm really excited. And I think this is just like leading into that beautifully. But right, it's like choose your heart. I love that. Well, let's go ahead and let Alecia or Jennifer take it away with their story.
I kind of want to just, before we do a story, and I kind of want to just, as a newer business owner, like delegation, we all know like we should eventually delegate, but it's not always easy at the very beginning. And so like for me, it's not about micromanaging or knowing all the pieces and parts. Like, yes, I am doing all the things, but when I do delegate, or when I can or will set off things, like my the thing that's kind of my back of mind is like the cash flow, right? So then it's making sure that you're savvy and your cash flow health, whether that's you have a line of credit so that you can sleep at night, or you have like a savings account for the bank or whatever, like whatever you're comfortable with. That's what I'm working on right now. Like get that set. So then I feel comfortable delegating, because I know that there's going to be like that push out initially of finances out before I see the financial benefit of it. So just kind of, like there's that piece and component of growth there. And that, if you're a newer business owner or thinking about starting a business like that, like it's okay to know that you need to delegate and that you're not delegating yet. But that, you set your sights, and put steps in place to get there eventually.
Yes.
Okay,
thank you so much for bringing, no, seriously, that's super important. And that's why I just love that we have this group together today, because that is so accurate, and it helps represent those who are startups, right? In this first couple of years, because a lot of times it's not about, delegation being scary in the sense of letting go. Sometimes it's like, it's not feasible yet because I don't have the money for it. Right. And so figuring out, okay, what are the steps like you're doing? What can I get in place so that then I can make that next step, understanding that it's going to be helpful to get there, but how do you even get there? So I think that's really wise. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and go, Alecia, unless you wanted to keep going. Are you good? Are you good?
Go right ahead.
My journey is way different than all y'all's. I'm not a BCBA, and I'm completely fine with that. I started my company over 10 years ago, and before I hired a BCBA, I was doing some of the clinical stuff, just because it was before all of this was really coming in, and I started in this field in, the late 90s. So I thought a lot about this question, and there's two pivotal times in the company that I know were the best decisions. Once I brought on a BCBA and I started growing, I was told it's time to get an admin because we were growing, and I could not, even with a BCBA running all the clinical, the amount of back end stuff that has to be done is not even something anybody can understand unless you are in that position. It's bigger than billing. It's bigger than scheduling. It's bigger than you're literally assuming the entire liability of this company and everything that happens to it. Every person that walks through your door, your staff, your clients, your team, whatever, you are the person who's guaranteeing that they make a living and that these kids are getting served in a way that they need to be served. And so that's a huge responsibility to take on, and you can't do it by yourself. And one of the first things I was told was, we'll get an office administrator. And at that time, I had a job as a director for a school in the city where we started. And so my time was split. So I'm like, okay, you're right. I need an office manager. The problem with that is I didn't know what an office manager did. I could give you a job description, but I had no idea how to coach them, how to mentor them, how to even, other than, I just want it done this way. And so I had 2 failed attempts of an office administrator that I assume 100% responsibility on, that I did not do my job as their leader and coach to set them up for success. So I made a decision in 2020, at the end of 2020, to resign as a director for the school I was at and completely immerse myself into my business. And so you have to know there's like 5 years of a business I'm kind of running at this point because I'm split. I'm not there. My presence is there certain times of the year and then they're not. Making that decision was incredibly difficult because I was not taking a salary at that time from my company, and my husband and I both work. And so I was giving up a salary from another position. But I immersed myself in that office administrator position for an entire year. I was already doing the scheduling, that is its own nightmare. Mallory, I understand. Waking up in the morning, not even wanting to look at your phone because you're like, what fire am I putting out? Thankfully, I already had a biller the whole time, but I spent the entire year running that center and being the office administrator so that when I made a job description, I knew exactly what I meant with every piece of my being and how I could set the person that I was going to move into that position up for complete success, that they had somebody to lean on. And it wasn't, I thought this, you came across as somebody who's an office administrator. The problem with that mentality is just because somebody answers an ad and they have experience, if there's not clarity in what you want specifically for that position within your company, they're not going to be set up for success. They're going to be, and then they're going to end up maybe doing something you didn't like, or, maybe doing something that's against HIPAA, something. And so for me, immersing myself in that position and not just learning about the day-to-day, but also learning about everything I could learn about, made the biggest difference when it was time to bring in a new office administrator. And it ended up being one of my RBTs who did not want to be in an RBT for forever. She wanted to move into an administrative position. So 6 months before we were going to transfer her in, we started training. And it was just behind the scenes training. Like I would blind carbon her on emails so that she could see how to write professionally, the tone, things like that, starting to teach her, systems and all of those for the last 6 months. And then when she moved into that position, she was more set up. Not only did she know the company's culture and what we expected, she then also had the back end business side of all these things that you have to be responsible for as the office manager. And she's now, she's been with me for 7 years, and she's now my director of operations. So, but I've had to put myself in each position in order to show what I want for the person coming up under me. And I think it doesn't matter how long you've been a business owner, you're never prepared for the next level you're supposed to go into, right? So by the time I'm at this level, I may be going, man, what's my job now? Because now I've put all these amazing people under me, and they're killing it. They're doing everything. You've got a strong clinical team. You've got a strong admin team. And then as an owner, you're like, well, what do I do now? So you're kind of moving into that next level too. So it's awesome. But I think the best decision I've ever made is always making sure that I'm immersing myself in a position from the administrative side, because that's my role now. My clinical director takes on all of the clinical. I don't have to think about that, worry about that. He and I talk, and we meet all the time, and we're always together brainstorming. But from an administrative standpoint, I'm always immersing myself in whatever position I'm about to either need, or so that I can be a true mentor and coach to my team, instead of just, hey, here's your job description, good luck. Ask me a question if you have one, because at the end of the day, people want to do well and they want to do right. And they're not always going to come to you with the admission of, I'm not sure how to do this. So you want to set it up for that major, major success, but also so much clarity that there's no confusion, and they can become autonomous much quicker and feel confident in the position that you've entrusted them in. That's my 2 cents. There you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Jen.
It's interesting that all three of us, I know, Alecia, you're going next. So I actually am curious what yours is going to be, because all three of ours was asking for help. Right? Clearly.
Well, yeah, I just want to say, Jennifer, I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't delegated yet, is because I don't know what exactly I need as a newer business owner, as far as on the admin side or business side. I can't say, oh, hey, so-and-so off the street, come here, let me delegate this thing to you, right? Because I don't know what that thing is. I'm just doing it. So that is something that I've kind of been working on the back end of making workflows and checklists and those kinds of things. That's been an ongoing project. That is super overwhelming, so that I can start to build myself and be prepared for that next step. But yeah, I just want to say I feel you on that. I think that's really an important piece, because we want to set up our people for success, right? Because if they're not successful, then we're not successful. Then the kids aren't successful. Then the business isn't successful. And so it all kind of plays together. So yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll transition over to my thing. Two things kind of came to mind. But I think my biggest one was deciding to not hire a BCBA and train my up and coming BCBAs. So I currently have supervisees who are getting fieldwork hours to become BCBAs, and they should be leveling up in the next year, at least some of them. And I'm so super excited for them. It's been amazing to see their growth, but that was a very, it was an easy decision for me, but it was a scary decision, right? I knew I wanted to grow my own people, but everybody was like, well, don't you want them just have BCBA and just go with you? And I'm like, no, I don't really. Right? Because I'm a very natural environment teaching kind of clinician, and that is not everybody's background. And I don't want to have to reteach that. It's really hard to undo what BCBAs already know and do on the clinical side. And I just didn't want that back and forth fight. I wanted my staff to come in knowing what it was that our feel here is, and have that inherent drive to have that kind of natural environment teaching component in their clinical decision making. So to find supervisees that are local to me and build them up and soon be able to have a really strong clinical team to then expand to provide more services in the area for our families is really at the heart of my business and why I created it. And I'm so super excited for it. And it just matched all of my vision and mission and all of that. So
yeah, Alecia, that's a good point. That's what I started off doing. And, like Jennifer and Mallory, when we started, there was not this tier system that they have now. It was, if you had anything you could bill $1,000 to insurance, right? So right when I started, I think a year into starting is when they started saying, you had to have this BCBA and then you have RBTs and this whole thing. But when I first started, it was me and a student, and she was me sitting for her exam, at some point, and she was with me for 10 years. But really growing within, and so that they learn your model, you guys can almost have this envision together and grow together. Mm-hmm. I think that's super important when you're just starting out too, is you might want to be the only BCBA and find some students that you can grow together, you can learn together, they can help you with, your visions and you can help them with their visions. And they're the employees that I found that really stick, because then they grow up, right? They grow into that clinical director role. They grow into making decisions with you, which really helps because you've pretty much grown up together in this field, right? Because it's like your best friends that you grew up together with, but they're still the closest people to me, even though they've moved on and had kids and gotten married. You see that whole thing, but they get to know you and know your vision, and your visions then become their visions. And it's really nice that model. And like I said, it's kind of the same model that I had, when I first started out. It was just me and then a student. Another student came and then they got their BCBA and they stuck. They stuck with us. So it's really important to me to find that army behind you that really understands you and wants to grow with you and have the same visions, but that can also say, hold on, that's not the best decision, and they're okay telling you that. And then you talk through it. And that comfort to say to, the business owner, that's not the best idea, is very scary, but you kind of welcome those ideas and you make yourself more available to say, hold on, let's discuss that. Let's talk about that, and then you hold their hands through the other challenging moments. I remember one time I had a really challenging kiddo, and, students don't always have those very challenging kiddos. And she came to me, she's like, I can't work with him. No, you're going to work with him, and I'm going to hold your hand through this, so that they are able to work with, every type of behavior possible that's thrown into us. It's just, I'm going to hold your hand through these next couple of weeks. We're going to get through it until you can say, yes, I've got this. And that started out the same way you started out too, is just me and a couple students. And then the students turn into BCBAs, and the BCBAs turn into, clinical directors. And soon they're, they have as much say as we do.
Right. I also think that it's important to continue to have growth for anyone that's on your team, right? I don't hire and they might leave me, right? I hire and I'm going to keep them. They're going to stay, they're going to grow, they're going to enjoy this, they're going to do, right? We always want to, I always look at the longevity, I trust you, you trust me because you want to work with me, you want to join our team, right? Our visions and our work ethic, it matches, and we're going to fold you in. And if the initial starting point doesn't meet what you need, okay, let's pivot, let's find a different spot for you, right? That's how businesses grow, and that's how you create longevity. And yeah, I don't know, I guess I'll stop there.
Keep going as much as you want. That's what we're here for. And
I agree with you, Alecia. That's what we do. Most of our BCBAs have grown up with us. We started that, and it's it's just like I said earlier, it's a lot of seeds and then watering, right? And we wanted to grow our BCBAs not just from the clinical standpoint, but also from a leadership standpoint. So starting with teaching those soft skills of leadership, so making sure that experience that we put in place for them doesn't just include clinical. It's all about how you speak to your team, how you trust your team, trust yourself. You've trained them, so you need to trust them that they're going to implement what you have spent so much time investing in them, right? So always looking at the longevity of it. And it's okay that an RBT doesn't want to be a BCBA. They may be, as your company grows, they may move into a different position that's even better, not just for you, but for them, which ultimately, like you said, helps the kids because we've got a team that everybody's in this mission together. We all have this common goal, and we've grown up in the company, and you can have these candid conversations, and you can normalize feedback, and you can normalize disagreeing with each other, but understanding that we still need to take each other's point of view into consideration from a respectful place, because everybody has a point of view that is valid. And I think some of the best sessions we've ever had are just what we would call brain dumps. We didn't care what the idea was. It could have been the most crazy off the wall idea. And sometimes those ended up being our best ones, and we would implement them, but we did it as a team because we were all together, all united of this common goal of becoming helping our kids and just working together for high quality services that we were a united front on. So I think that's great that you're doing that. That's, to me, that's how you that's how you get your foundation of your company, and you keep getting to move forward, and you get to grow, and you can make the decision on if you want to add more or stay where you're at or explore new avenues into your, maybe you want to go more into a school setting, or maybe you want to set up a whole different department for social skills. My thing is the possibilities are endless. It's just how do we get it to be implemented together,
Absolutely, Jennifer. I think that is really interesting. Just the other day, some of my leads, my supervisees, and I were having a conversation about, okay, what would they really love to do? Like, what population, what age group, what, like all of those things, right? One individual said, I want to be with the littles. I want to do early intervention. One individual said, I want to work with teens or the transition age. I want to work with school age, right? And I'm like, we can do all of that. It's just about figuring out how to put that in place. And so that is, I think that's the fire inside of me and the light that keeps us going, right? That we can create lines of service, we can create avenues of employment and job descriptions to whatever our team wants. That is, of course, within reason, right? We have to follow the rules and the laws and the ethics and all of that. But we can do that. What's stopping us? It might take us a little while to get there, but let's do it. Let's do it. Why not?
I think growing from within too, what a great opportunity to lay the foundation down of the culture that you want, and then being able to maintain that culture, right? I don't want anybody to think I would ever be a naysayer on hiring somebody that already has their BCBA or, an RBT that already has their RBT. But I will say that the employees that stuck with me the longest and had the greatest impact within my own company were ones that started with me that, several of them didn't even know what ABA was. It was they applied and we had our interview. And during the interview was when I was able to explain to them what ABA was. And, they had somewhat of a passion, right? So I've said that before, if somebody has passion, I can't teach passion, but I can teach skill. And so if they can come to us with that passion, then, we can teach the skill and start to really shape the culture that we want our company to have. And so it's really a great thing to think about laying that foundation down when you have, the supervisees who are growing with you, like Brooke said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, with our company, we didn't grow our first couple of BCBAs, but our first couple of BCBAs that we hired actually stuck with us for like the entirety of like our entire 12 years, because part of that is like said, okay, we are a startup. We don't know what we're doing. Let's all learn together. Right. So the two BCBAs that we had hired had some previous experience, but we're still relatively new in the field too. And so we were able to kind of take from what they liked about previous experiences and what they did not like from previous experiences, and take that feedback and be able to use it to grow. I jotted some notes as everyone was talking, just trying to, some things that stood out to me, right? And so, trust came up, I think, in almost every conversation, right? How important trust is. Trust between employees, trust of yourself to even have confidence isn't the right word, but to be able to trust yourself to even take that next step, right? Even if it's scary, even if it's hard, but being able to take that next step. Allowing for help. Mallory, you said, oh, there's a theme here. We're asking for help, but not just asking for help, but you guys also allowed the help to help you. You're right. Like there's a difference there too, right? So, I think that's a really important part, and trust also is part of that, right? Trust, self-trust, and trust of others. And then also part of that is the communication, the clear expectations. Jen, you said that you spent a whole year really coming up with exactly what it is that you are going to ask others to do as you start to delegate. And Alecia, you're in those shoes right now. And so I think that's I think business owners of all stages can really take that with them too, is how important it is for us to communicate clearly and to know what it is that we even want from the people we're asking for help, asking to help us. And I think that also there is trust in there, because the more clear we are with our communication, and, even if we're like, hey, maybe we're in a situation where we didn't have a year to really dive in and figure out all the pieces, but we say we hire in person, we say, okay, I am not 100% clear of what I need, but I know I need help. Can we figure out this together? What does that look like? Right? Because I also don't want anyone to feel like they have to have it all figured out before they can ask for help, because I was in that's the bucket. That's where I was, for several years, longer than I wish I would have been in. I was waiting to know all the things before I took that step. And so, the other thing is, growth, right? Growth within yourselves as business owners, which, wow, like the amount of growth that you guys have had in your professional careers, no matter how short or long they've been, has been phenomenal. And pouring that growth into your teams as well, not just like looking at it all aspects within your company, not just like one-sided. Yeah, that's like super cool. It's really, yeah. Does anyone have any, I say last minute thoughts. I don't like saying it that way, but you know what I mean? Like anything like from this conversation, any takeaways or any pieces of advice that you could give to someone who may be like feeling that slump and feeling that drain and maybe having a hard time getting up because they're dreading checking their emails, or they're dreading scheduling or billing, or all the pieces that are really hard about being a business owner. Maybe any words of wisdom or advice for those listening today?
I would say you don't wake up thinking you have to have all the answers. Mm-hmm. I think that is something that business owners, I know I was like that, and I still am, feel like I should always have the answers, and I always feel like it has to be the right answer. And I feel like it makes me feel like my team won't trust me if I don't have an answer. And what I found out is that I think they'll trust you more if you show that vulnerability and that, hey, I don't have the answer right now, but I'm going to find it out, or I'm going to figure it out. And even if we make the wrong decision, we made the decision. And if it didn't work, it didn't work, and if it did work, that's awesome. But that pressure that we put on each other, on ourselves, to feel like you always have to have an answer or a response. Take a minute to think through, because it's not that you add more stress to yourself later if you try to answer something that you're not really prepared to answer. And it's okay to be vulnerable and show vulnerability to your staff. I mean, that makes you human and makes you more approachable, I think. And that's hard. I think that's hard, especially because you want to take care of your team and you want to take care of your kids and everybody you're serving, that when you feel like you don't have an answer, it almost, for me, it felt like I was letting somebody down. But what as the years have gone on, I've learned that people are more open and receptive to you because you're being very honest and candid and transparent with them. And so to try not to put so much pressure on yourself, I think, which I'm still practicing, by the way. I mean, I think we can all agree. We probably all still practice that, but I think saying it out loud and having, other people go, yeah, that's right. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to have an answer immediately. Grow with it, think through it, and be okay with that, sitting in that for a minute. And sometimes it can be future Jenny needs to address it. Today, Jenny doesn't, and that's okay too. So that would be something I would just kind of encourage people to think about as you're moving forward.
Yeah, Jennifer, I have to agree with you on that. Like I've been practicing and saying, like, I hear you. I understand what you're telling me, but I need some time to process. And then I will get back to you with that information, right? Whether that's a clinical decision, whether that's a business decision, whether that's a time off question, like whatever the question is, like I've really been trying to practice that and like acknowledging, because I think that's the piece that like we feel like we have to give an immediate response. So it's like giving ourselves a replacement behavior, right? Okay, I'm going to respond to you. I hear you. And now I'm going to tell you that I need time to process that information and to get to the right answer.
There's that professional growth thing coming up again, because really, I mean, it took me a long time, especially because, I mean, you get those last 4 letters behind your name. I know, Jennifer, you aren't a BCBA, but I mean, truly, you feel like sometimes like everybody is looking at you for all of the answers. And just because you got those, letters, you're like, okay, I'm all knowing. And it's just not the truth. And getting to a place, growing to a place where you're like, you know what? I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Right. And so the other thing, like, I would encourage people, and just remind people, because I know it's kind of been a lot more of a topic of discussion, but like finding mentors, or also reaching out to a previous mentor. So when I was at one of the ABA conferences here in Montana, it was one of their challenges to us was to reach out and thank a mentor in our life that really helped us start. And mine went, like, it took me a minute because I kept thinking like, well, who are all, who was in my life? And I started working at a bank when I was 14. And it was that person really that helped me lay the foundation of my professional life. And like, it was so wonderful because I was able to reach out to her and just say, thank you so much. And one of her things and it kind of goes with what Jen said, was that, never ask anybody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. So when Jen immersed herself for an entire year, into being like, okay, like, is this something that I want to ask somebody else to do? Is this something that I should ask other people to do? Is this something that I should be doing? I mean, it really does make a difference. So, I mean, the mentorship, I think encouraging everyone to just really lean into that. If you have mentors in your life who have been, so great, definitely thank them. That's a little bit of a challenge. Like, thank them, reach out to them and thank them, but then also lean on them now. Right. It's so helpful. And that professional growth, it doesn't stop. It never stops ever.
I think one other thing too is saying, I'm not sure, but I'll figure it out, or I'll get the answer back to you. And that oftentimes as business owners, we we want to have all the answers, like everyone else has been saying, we want to have the answers. We feel like we should have the answers. But I feel like it's okay to say, I'm not sure right now. Give me a little bit and I'll figure it out. And that goes with our staff, with our kiddos, with parents, right? The best thing I've learned with dealing with parents is transparency. And if they ask us a question that's a little bit more challenging question, and we don't want to give a quick response, it's, hold on, give me a little bit and I'll get back to you on that one. And that's okay. And I feel like it's almost a very respectful statement to say, right? Because we don't have all the answers. We might have to figure out research too on our end to figure out that answer, but it's okay. I think that's one big thing as a business owner is, like you guys said, we want to have all the answers. We want to be able to spitfire things right back, but that's not reality. And it's okay, to take a step back and think about responses, do a little bit of research before we respond. And that's what makes I feel a really good business owner and a really good mentor. And that's one line that I've learned in that with the word transparency too, is be as transparent as you can with your staff, with the parents. I feel like we have to come up with the best way to say things, but if you're just transparent and you just say it the way it should be said, people respect you a lot more. And that's one thing that I've learned as an owner. No, go ahead.
Sorry, there was like a little lag. I apologize for talking over you. And that goes with the trust, right? Mm-hmm. That transparency also helps build trust. Yeah. What you guys are saying too is like being so intentional, right? You're essentially practicing that pause and really slowing things down, and which is good for our nervous systems too, right? And those are some things that we'll be talking about into February about like some strategies, right? We talk about like work-life balance. Blah. I've decided I don't even like that phrase. But what are those replacement behaviors? What can we do to help us to be more intentional and slow things down so we're not pitting out those fires all the time, right? And really rewarding, getting that reinforcement from putting out those fires all the time. Like, how can we shift that to slow things down and being more intentional? So I love your advice there, Brooke, too. All right. Does anyone else have anything? Well, I just want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for your vulnerability, each one of you, because sharing some of these things can be difficult. And I really appreciate you modeling this and sharing for others that are listening out there who may, who I'm certain this is helping at least a few people out there not feel alone and kind of give them some direction. And I'm hoping it was a bit of a breath of fresh air and some hope for those of you who may be struggling a bit. And then I just want to remind you, if you haven't listened to last week's podcast, go back and listen. It's actually our Mallory and Jen and myself we had a great conversation. And we have launched our ABA Business Owner Support Group, and we would love for you to be part of it. So if you want to know more about that, there is a link in the show notes. And then also you can just go back and listen to last week's podcast to learn more about that. And I believe, we also in the link, I'm not going to even say, cause I don't want to get the date wrong, but in the link, it will tell you the dates of when we will meet. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time, for those who are here, for those who are listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.